Hello, Alexa developers. Uh, right now, we are now having, ooh, we are going to have Gall Shenar on of Stoked Skills. And may I say, I am stoked for this stream, Gall. So Gall is known for making the Escape the Room game, and more recently, he has been doing a lot of experimentation with retention and the web API for games with his new game, Puzzle of the Day.
Hey guys, so I'm happy to be here and share all my experiences. Like Joe said, I've worked on Escape the Room in the past, which has been pretty popular, but I've talked about that a lot in the past. And so I'm really excited to share some of my experiences today building my most recently released game, Puzzle of the Day. So I think there's a lot of interesting things there that we can dig into.
Sweet. So actually, if Jeff or Mark or someone, if you can find some of the older blog posts about Escape the Room, I think that might help give some backstory for people off stream to read. But now let's do a quick demo of the new game. And here we go. Let's see this. Open Puzzle of the Day. I like that intro music.
Welcome to Puzzle of the Day, Puzzle Initiate. It's good to have you back. Are you ready to start today's puzzle?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I might
starting
need a little
today's
bit of
puzzle.
help on this one,
Today's
everyone.
puzzle difficulty is easy. Good luck.
Yeah, let's let the audience
Word 1. The
suggest
clue
some
is
help.
Expert Picture Snapper. 12 letters. What is your guess?
Anyone have a guess for this one?
What is your guess? You can
There you
also
go,
skip
Jeff,
to the
you
next
got it.
word, reveal a letter, ask for more time, or give up. Perfect.
Good work, Jeff Blankenberg.
Photographer gives you 50 points.
Oh,
Word 2. The clue is
I don't know if
seating
that's it.
escort. 5 letters. What is your guess? You can also skip to the next word,
Usher.
reveal a letter, ask for more time, or give up.
Nice. These
Phenomenal.
guys are good.
75 points for guessing usher. Word 3. The clue is supervisor of reception food. What is your
Yeah, I'm
guess?
gonna let it finish.
You can
taking
also
its time.
skip, reveal a letter, reveal the whole word, or give up.
Oh, caterer. Caterer.
Perfect. Caterer gives you 100 points. Other players struggled with this word the most, so nice job solving it.
Yeah, full
Word 4
disclosure.
has 10 letters and 2 words.
I did this earlier.
Your clue is
I couldn't get that
carrier
one.
of jewelry pillow.
So that part
What
is
is your
dynamic,
guess?
and it'll figure out what was the hardest that day and let people know.
Oh, very cool. It makes me feel good getting that this time.
Yeah.
Oh, ring bearer. Ring bearer. Oh. This is not your skills problem. This is just my janky Fire TV setups problem. Ring bearer.
Nice try, but ring bearer is not quite what I was looking for. Please try again.
That was it.
By the
I think
way,
it got into
remember
some
that
sort
like a
of a
paper
weird state
crossword,
there. Huh?
there can be multiple reasonable answers per clue. Use those letter reveals to help you narrow things down,
Let's use
or say
let's
pass
use
to
a
move
letter
on and
reveal.
come back to this word later. What is your guess?
Reveal a letter.
Jeff is too good here.
You reveal the first letter in
Yeah,
word
right.
5. It is the letter O. Word 5. The clue is player of church keyboard. 8 letters.
Organist.
Phenomenal. 200 points for guessing organist. Congratulations,
wager.
you've finished today's puzzle. You've
So I
earned
actually didn't try
250
this. I
bonus
had to
points
bail
for
from the
finishing
puzzle.
in less than 3 minutes and 150 for your remaining letters. This brings you to a total of 975 points. You now have a chance to guess the puzzle theme. The theme has one word with 8 letters.
I
You can
got some
wager up
risk
to
takers in the audience.
975 points on the theme guess, or
I need
say
some
no
help with the
wager to
theme
guess
here.
for fun. But remember, you only get one shot. If you get it wrong, or Alexa mishears you, you will lose the points you wagered. How many points would you like to wager?
974.
Okay, a 974-point wager
Go
on the
with
theme
straight
guess.
last.
Let's do this. The theme has one word with 8 letters. You only have one shot at this. When you're ready to make your guess, say Alexa, and then your guess.
Oh, gold Zulu. I think that might be it. Weddings.
You got
You
it.
guessed the theme.
Nice.
You get 974 extra points for your wager, giving you a final score of 1,949 points. Today's game is still in progress for others, but here are the preliminary results. With 1,949 points, you are 606 points above the average. Time-wise, you finished the puzzle faster than 43% of players. Check back in tomorrow for the complete report. Congratulations, you have ranked up to level 2, Puzzle Novice. Continue playing in hopes to become a puzzle master. You finished today's daily puzzle. After playing the daily puzzle, our Puzzle League members can continue with each day's power puzzle. Would you like to give that a try?
No thanks.
No worries. If you change your mind, you can always join by saying join the Puzzle League. You've already played today's puzzle. What would you like to do?
All right. That's pretty cool. The first thing that strikes me are the visuals. How did you go about achieving that?
Yeah, so I see Urban Blaster said this is some sick APL, but it's actually not APL. It's actually using the web API for games, which I think there's a blog post somewhere about. But that's a new feature for Alexa that lets you basically build the visuals for your skill using web technologies. So this is built as a website, basically using JavaScript, which allows you to be way more flexible and build way more complicated visuals in technologies that have already been around for many years. So there's tons of tooling already there, which makes it pretty easy to actually get set up and started.
So what is your background actually?
Yeah, so I have a background as a web developer, like a full stack developer. So I've been coding for a while now, and the web API stuff was great because I was able to use some of the skills that I have from my day-to-day job over time and not have to learn a new visual framework. So that was really nice. I'm super excited about that, and I think it's going to power some really awesome gaming experiences in the future.
That's really cool. So your background was as a professional web developer then. How did you get into creating skills for Alexa?
Yeah, so I've always kind of loved playing with new technologies, going to new different hackathons with friends for like things like VR and voice and stuff like that. And I stumbled upon an Alexa hackathon sometime about 4 years ago. And this was way back when it was just coming out. I think there was only an Echo Dot out at the time. And built some games there. It was like a couple hours thing. Came back and had some fun with it. Built a couple skills later, pretty simple ones. Then, yeah, over time, I kind of let that sit for a little bit, like 6 months or so. Then there was the Dev Rewards thing came out, and one of the skills I had built started to earn a little bit of money. And so that was kind of cool. And I was like, maybe I could spend some more time and really invest a lot into building something more intense. And I kind of looked out what's out there, and I thought there was kind of a gap for a really compelling, engaging, multi-turn open world experience. And so I kind of spent a while building Escape the Room and launched that. So that was my first real game. Before that, it was more simpler 1 or 2 turn experiences. So this was kind of a big open world experience, and I learned a lot building that. It became super successful, and a lot of people were using it, got great reviews, and that kind of drove me to really get excited about spending more time on this. And it's such a unique sort of gaming experience that you can't really replicate in any other medium. So I really think it's super interesting.
Yeah, the first time I played Escape the Room, it was actually there was a Echo Dot plugged into a receiver, which was powering speakers all around the room. So it was like the room was talking to us, which was a very cool experience to play that
awesome.
game with.
Yeah.
So I provided a link to the latest Puzzle of the Day skill, but check out Stoked Skills for all the different skills you've made. So how many have you made in total then?
I don't know the exact number. I think it's like 7 or 8 or 9. Yeah, and so they're all kind of vary in different areas. Escape the Room is like the open world one. There's a couple different escape rooms, and then I have a couple of word games with wordplay, and then Game of Words, which is actually I think is one of the coolest ones, but due to like some of the natural language difficulties with just understanding anything, it's had some difficulties. But that one is actually multiplayer real-time game, so you're playing at the same time against everyone else who's playing on their devices in 3-minute rounds. So I think that's really cool, and those are the kinds of things I've been experimenting with, making things social. So almost all my games have a way that you can compare your leaderboards or some sort of scores or interact with other players, which can be a difficult thing to do given the turn-based nature and the anonymity of these experiences. But I like to try to sprinkle that in whenever I can.
Yeah, that's actually, I would love to dig more into that topic, but we have a couple questions here from people. So Gold Zulu was having some problems getting invited. Gold Zulu, you can ping me in Twitch, and I can look into that with you. So yes, the web API does lead to interactive and real-time updates. Actually, what are some of the ways that you use the web API to have real-time updates in Puzzle of the Day?
Yeah, so I've experimented with it a little bit, and there's actually much more that you can do. So some of the simple things I've done is, have a timer. The timer clock now starts running. In the APL version, it doesn't actually progress in time. It just updates every single turn. So things like that are really simple, but just weren't really possible with APL. Other things like transitions, I don't know if those are possible, but there's some sliding around transitions. And I have the little owls doing like little animations there. So all that sort of stuff is now possible with just standard web technologies, which makes it really easy to build. And there are some things that are even more that it can do even more that I haven't dived into, which is like getting the speech, the text. I don't know what it's called. The actual, like, I forget the exact term for it, but you can get the speech and you can know what she's saying as she's saying it. So you can do some sorts of animations around that time. The speech marks. So there's a lot of really cool functionality that this is going to expose. And I think I've only scratched the surface of that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have the full suite of web development available to you now, with the ability to speak with your backend skill through those events, and so it's pretty open with what you can do at that point. You did actually mention you can't do the clocks in APL. So just recently, there were some clock variables added into the data binding context, so you can now build clocks as of 2 weeks ago.
Oh, awesome. Didn't see that.
Do you have a APL fallback experience for this game?
I do have an APL fallback experience. It's not updated with the clock stuff, but
yeah,
but it's there. And I think that don't know if it's required, but I think it's required to have kind of a fallback like that for web API.
Yes. Whether or not wired, it's definitely best practice because web API is not available on all devices.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to provide some level of visuals, even if it's very simple.
Yeah, exactly. So it used to have APL, so it still has that whole APL supported experience, and I'm gonna continue updating that until if it ever drops out of support. We'll see.
Very cool. Okay, yeah. So you can, of course, use a canvas in the new web API as well. So are you using canvas to draw those elements?
No, I'm not using canvas at all. I'm actually, all the stuff is just the standard HTML page. The images, the owls are all SVGs that are just animated with CSS.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nice and simple, high performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works surprisingly well and easily. So I was really excited about that.
So I'm actually going to switch back and take a look at the leaderboard. So let's open this back up. Open puzzle of the day. Yes, you can tell it's the web
Welcome
API
to Puzzle of
because
the Day,
it's loading from
Puzzle Novice.
StokedSkills.com.
It's good to have you back. You've already played today's puzzle. What would you like to do? You can see how you rank, set up email reports, join the puzzle league, play today's power puzzle, hear the rules, or rate today's puzzle.
That's okay. So tell me about some of those options here, actually. Yeah.
You've already played today's puzzle. What would you like to do? You can
the
see
leaderboard
how you
is
rank,
slightly dynamic.
set up email
As you
reports,
saw, like
join the puzzle league,
power puzzle
play today's
was up
power
there
puzzle,
because you
hear
finished
the rules, or rate today's puzzle.
Okay, so power puzzle was up there because you finished the daily puzzle. So the power puzzle is the second type of puzzle for subscribers, and then you can also play an old puzzle. Once you finish the daily one, you can play puzzles up from the last week in case you missed any.
Does that get added to your leaderboard score?
Yes, right now it does. So yeah, up to the last week. Everything gets added to your leaderboard score except for the daily retention bonus. When you come back multiple days in a row, you get some points, but it would be kind of unfair if those went to your leaderboard score. It goes to your leveling, the leveling system.
So, okay, tell me a little bit about the leveling system.
Sure. So that's just one other thing that's added to kind of help with retention and keep people engaged and reward them for continuing to play. So at the top, there's an experience bar, and you can kind of slowly progress through the levels as you play more. You get points for playing the games, playing the power puzzles, and for coming back multiple days in a row. So that's another way to kind of like add a retention mechanic in to keep people excited about coming back. And your levels will show up on things like the leaderboards and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay, let's take a look at that leaderboard now. Open puzzle of the day. And I'm going to use the remote. All right, let's check out this leaderboard.
The top players for the past week are Anna E. with 31,150 points, Anonymous with 27,430 points, and Anonymous with 26,775 points. You are in 1,778th place with 1949 points for the past week. Keep on playing to get better, and check the online leaderboards at stokedskills.com for more detailed statistics. You've already played today's puzzle. What would you like to do? You can see how you rank, set up email reports, join the puzzle league, play today's power puzzle, hear the rules, or rate today's puzzle.
So I found the email mechanic really interesting as well. So you have this account linking in there. If we wanted to, we could go through the account linking flow for the email. How do you leverage that for retention or for other purposes?
Yeah, so if you account link, you can basically get your name on the leaderboard, and you can get daily emails sent to you. So basically, every day that you've done a puzzle, the next morning, it will calculate everyone who's done that puzzle, and it'll give you like your final score. When you play during the day, you're only really getting your ranks against the people who have played so far that day. And so you can get in the email like how you compared against everyone who's played, and it will give you kind of a full report there and be able to link you to your more detailed stats and all that, because it can be hard to really get a good grasp of all your stats listening to it. So it's great to have that on paper. And that daily email is also a perfect reminder to play in case you forgot. You know, you have it in your inbox, comes there right in the morning. So it kind of reminds you how you did yesterday, and it's a perfect segue into playing again. I can show what that looks like on my screen. I have an example one up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at that. All right. So if you just share your screen.
Sure. So can you see this?
Not yet.
Oh, I did not share. Okay.
All right. Oh, I got to. There we go. It's a little bit.
It's cut off. Weird. Okay. How about?
Perfect.
Sorry, I'm trying to see where on the screen you can see it. So basically, here it is. It's just a pretty simple email. I've been messing with the styling and kind of working on it, but it'll tell you your time, how fast you finished, how many players you played against, kind of your point breakdown, points, time bonus, letter reveal points, your wager, and it'll give you your lifetime stats. It'll give you a link to share your stats on Twitter if you want to do that. So you can click that, and it'll kind of put your score in a tweet already for you to help that. And ask you if you want to leave a review. So that's pretty much it.
So you've added a lot of social elements here, right? Between the tweets, the leaderboards themselves are social elements. What are like the purposes of those?
Yeah, so kind of I'm trying to work on adding any possible thing to help improve retention, really. With the voice app itself, you can build a great experience, but it has its own limitations. I think a lot of people who have been developing for a while have encountered those. One of the problems for retention is like it's not like a phone app or a video game system. You don't have anything on your home screen that you can relate to that will remind you every day to play the game. So even if you want to, like people have busy days and they can just easily forget to play something that they used to like. So these little ways to kind of to remind people like this exists, like don't forget to play. So emails are great for that. The Twitter thing is good for helping share it with friends. So you can there's a lot of social elements. And so when you have your score, and if you have a couple of good friends who now want to play with you, you can compare your scores together. So it's all sorts of little reasons to keep coming back to play the game. And I've been trying to sprinkle those in anywhere that I can.
So do people use that as like a competition mechanism too? Like, hey, look how good I did today. Here's a tweet.
Yeah, so far not too many people have used the tweet functionality, but but some people have, and so yeah, and so I have some friends I know who play this, and they're really into the leaderboards. They try and race to come first every day, and text me when they do well. So it's definitely something that some people are interested in, something that other players are not as interested in. Some just like the puzzles and don't care about the scores. So you really have to find the right balance there.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions from the chat here as well. So yes, Akka, it is using HTML and the Web API for games. Akka also asked, how is the retention? So what are your success metrics that you look at for retention?
Yeah, so I don't have exact concrete numbers to share on retention, but I'm pretty happy with the retention here, and it's way better than any of my other skills, especially for existing user retention. New user retention is pretty good. People are coming back after playing, but it's kind of it has a limited set of user base. It doesn't really work well for kids, which is a big market for Alexa games.
Mm-hmm.
It's too hard. But for the people who it does work for, they're really staying. So the people who stay are coming back, and I'm seeing almost like very little drop off after week 1 to like 5-6 weeks. People are coming back like almost the same rate. Once you come back, you kind of stay hooked to it. So I'm trying to keep that, and I've been seeing a really good user growth. It doesn't really tend to drop down once the new user rate goes down for any reason. It's kind of slowly uptrending and really doesn't go down too often. So that's really a factor of focusing on retention, and that's what I'm really excited about, because it lets me focus and really try and build up a big user base and not feel like I'm starting from scratch. Where for some game experiences like Escape the Room, you can build a really cool experience, but once they finish that, it's hard to get them to come back. There's only so much escape rooms people can really do. Like I have 9 of them. I think once you finish all of them, you're really not that interested in doing one every single day. Whereas this
Yeah.
is a shorter 5-minute experience that you can really do every day, and it's totally new content every day. So
And as a solo developer, you don't really have the bandwidth to build a new escape room every day. Sounds like a lot.
it's a lot of work to build escape rooms, and there's a limited amount of puzzles, interesting puzzles you can build with voice only that don't get repetitive. So
Okay.
that can actually take a long time. More than the story is like, how can you build a puzzle that's fun and skill based, but not repetitive and not just a math problem or something like that. Something using audio. So they can be pretty complex. And yeah, it takes a long time to build those.
Yeah, and I'm sure a good bit of user testing too.
Yeah, user testing, all the utterances and all the different items and tools that can be used. There's a lot that can go into those. So
Okay, so that it sounds like you've got a good core audience that is growing over time, and your techniques are working really well for those people who want to come back, whether it's for competition reasons or just to keep their daily streak and keep leveling up. Um, do you happen to, well, I guess which metrics do you look at to judge this?
um, yeah, so I'm mostly looking at retention, I'd say.
In the
I'm really
Alexa Dev Console?
yeah, I also have my own metrics that I look at. I don't really love the retention one actually in the Alexa Dev Console because I think it combines existing and new users. So there's some other tools like Dashbot which will
Oh,
actually spread that out, and I find that to be like a really different metric. So I'm really kind of looking at existing users, and then the other chart I look at, which is on Dashbot too, is like the returning users graph. So I'm kind of always looking for my returning users count to grow, and I find that to be the most interesting. Like I want people to be coming back to the skill more than I care right now about getting new users, because I'm still kind of in that feature development phase. I'm trying to tweak everything I can to make the experience better and to make people come back. I'm not really going for session length here because I don't want to I don't want to exhaust people of the fun of the game. So that's the reason that I limit the puzzles to like the last 7 days. I could let you play everything ever
yeah.
made and do like a practice mode type thing and let you play anything. But if you play like 50 games in a row one day, I feel like that's just going to not make you interested. So by kind of making some amount of scarcity, you can keep people excited about coming in for the next puzzle each day.
That's really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to burn out your user.
Exactly.
So, yeah, Justin says he likes the multi-layered approach to engagement. Not all gamers are alike. I have to totally agree with that. So, M. Tucker PHX asks, what do you use to store your leaderboard, and how costly is it?
Sure. So I can dive a little bit into some of the tech, and I can dive deeper if people are interested. But I'm using Jovo as kind of the framework for building these, and using the standard DynamoDB integration to store user data. And so that's kind of where I store the user data that's just used in a user session. And then I also store a bunch more data in MySQL, in a relational database, to let me power kind of all the leaderboards and all of my internal metrics that I use for my own dashboards. In terms of how costly it is, it's not too bad. It's using pretty small instances on RDS. So it's all kind of stuff that would be covered by that $100 developer reward. Turns out you don't really need that big of a database to power stuff like this. So yeah, it's not too costly. And the websites and all that are just static sites hosted on S3, which just call out to the database. So there's not too much moving parts here, really.
Okay, so for a skill session, you're just making a couple of reads for that user, maybe a read for the leaderboard if they ask for that.
Yeah, it's like writing some data when they do things. I am storing, like, it's not a ton, but like, whenever they guess something, I store the wrong guesses so I can kind of loop over that and see if there's any problems. I store a bunch of metrics on, like, what was the hardest word? Are there any problematic words? So I can kind of look and see, do people retain more when there's a hard puzzle or when there's an easy puzzle? Things like that. So there's a lot of different things to look at and tweak. So I'm trying to store that data and analyze it over time. It takes a lot of time to analyze everything. But I'm slowly getting to it.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, the first step is always collecting that data. So if you don't have the data, you have nothing to analyze. So I mean, I think that's awesome. You're using many different data sources and comparing them to each other. I think that's a really cool approach. Ice Cream Codes asks, as far as daily engagement, have you tried getting users to add it to a routine?
So that's interesting. Yeah, I have a couple of different upsells. I call them upsells, but basically, whenever you finish the puzzle, it kind of will figure out what to ask you to do next. So if you haven't subscribed and I haven't asked you if you want to subscribe yet, that'll be the first thing. One of those things was asking users if they want to add it to a routine, and there's no way to manually do that, but I've been like, do you want to learn how to do that? If they say yes, I'll teach them, go to the app and do this. That was okay, but a lot of people were not that interested in that. So that's actually turned off now, I believe.
Oh.
And what's actually way more effective is the fairly new voice reminders feature, which allows you to do it completely through the skill without going to the app. You can ask the user, do you want to set a reminder? They say yes. You say what time, and they pick a time. And if they haven't enabled permissions for the skill, it'll be like, do you want to enable permissions for reminders? And they just have to say yes. And then they'll be reminded every day at that time that they want to play. And that I've seen has been pretty effective.
Okay.
It's really easy to set up, and it will just give them a little notification on their device, and it will even just talk without them saying anything and be like, hey, don't forget to play puzzle a day at this time, right now. So I found that to be a really cool feature, and people don't have that in their skills yet, and they do have a daily sort of skill where it makes sense. I definitely recommend adding that.
Yeah, I really like that they added the voice permission for the reminders because it removes that level of friction of taking out your phone, right? You might be playing the Alexa game because you don't have your phone on you, right?
And a lot of people, I think, don't even really know or remember that they have an app and stuff like that. People
Oh,
are just, they're using it, Alexa, they don't even know what you mean when you say go to the app. So that's a big friction point for sure.
I got to be honest. The first time I was greeted with your account linking, I didn't do it because I didn't have my phone on me. It
Yep.
took like a week later before I signed up. So we have a question here from Akka. Well, what is the best method you use to retain users? So it sounds like that voice reminders is up there.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely the best method. There's tons of reminders now that are firing every day and getting people to come back. For the emails, that's great. It's hard to convert on that to get people to account link, like we just talked about. But once they do have emails, it's a really, really good way to get people to come back. We all know how useful and important email marketing is to businesses everywhere. And so being able to like give them a report in their email every day that's something that they actually kind of care about and want to see how they compare, and give them data that they can't really get that well inside of the experience. That tends to be pretty powerful.
Yeah, what I think is most brilliant about that approach is you're giving them a lot of value in that email rather than just kind of marketing to them, which seems like a really good approach to take, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's something that you can't get in the skill, and if you were trying to get that information in the skill, it would be pretty annoying actually, because you don't want to listen to a giant wall of text.
Yeah, absolutely. And Akka also asks, how many new users try the app out per day? If you don't mind sharing that information.
It fluctuates a lot. Probably depends. It depends a ton. I'd say like generally in the hundreds right now. It depends on promotion. I try to cross promote from some of my other skills. I try to promote on social media and stuff like that. So there's times where it might get promoted by Amazon, where it might not, and things can change. Goes up and down a lot. So that's why I don't actually focus on new users at all. I mostly care about returning users, because if that can go up, then that means that you have a good skill, and that's where you can focus your time on. And then once you have that maxed out as good as you can, then it's time to focus on kind of building up new users.
Yeah, retention is the ultimate marker of quality, right? You're building something they want to come back to.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure that these all work together too, right? Like, would your customers be as willing to have a reminder every day if there was no leaderboard?
Yeah.
So having that multi-layer approach is really cool. So you mentioned upsell, and we had a question earlier as well. Is this your full-time job?
It's more of my full-time job than it used to be. I used to work full-time as a developer when I was building a lot of this stuff. About 6 months ago, I quit that, and now I'm working kind of part-time at another company and part-time on this stuff. So
Okay.
I'm kind of splitting my time on a lot of stuff. I'm trying to focus as much as I can on this, but I keep pretty busy between all the things that I'm working on.
So how do you monetize your Alexa skills?
Yeah, so pretty much all my skills, all my games have ISPs on them. Puzzle of the Day uses a subscription model, so people can subscribe and get the second puzzle every day, the power puzzle, which is harder, and they can get access to a couple more features. And Escape the Room, you can buy hints. Some of the rooms just cost money to play the room as a whole. And all the other things have consumables and some sort of ISPs in them.
Are there any any of those methods you found more or less effective for your games, or does it vary by like the game genre?
Yeah, I think you really have to do what makes the most sense. I've found that it depends on the type of game. Like for Escape the Room, I think that the entitlement model made sense. It would have been hard to fit subscriptions in there. In general, I think subscriptions are a nicer model to work with because it's something that you can build up. You know, once you have a user, you have that money, that's recurring revenue, and that's going to keep coming back as long as you keep pleasing those users. And so you can kind of more easily build a business model there. Whereas an entitlement model like Escape the Room requires you to basically keep the same new user flow through the system. And if that goes down, then your revenue goes down. So I like the subscriber model more, but it really only works if you can provide new content every day and new experiences, which can be expensive.
Yeah, so actually on that note, how do you manage your content for these like once a day kind of skills, like puzzle of the day?
Yeah, so right now I work with a couple of content creators who are working to help me build out the puzzles and the clues. And then I do that in spreadsheet form, and then I kind of import that into my app. So I run it through a whole set of validations where I try to make sure the content will work. So one thing I do is I go through every word, every solution, and I make sure that it's not a word that's a different spelling in British, because then people get pissed off in the UK, and this game is also in the UK. So
yes, I noticed that.
yeah. So that's one of the things I do. I'll just remove all the words that are like that. Then another thing I'll do is I will call an API to find like similar sounding words for all of my word combinations. So any word that's in the model, I will call the API, see if these two words are alike. And if they are, then I put them in as synonyms. Normally through the game, I just put the slots, the words that are in the puzzle into dynamic entities, but I also add all the similar sounding words that are in the voice model, but not in that puzzle as synonyms for that word, so that it's more likely. So say you had like Delhi in India and Delhi, like a sandwich, and those are both, I think, in my voice model right now, but they will get really mixed up. So I have to add them as synonyms and treat them the same. So I have to have a mapping of that. And there's all sorts of other validations that I need to do to make sure that there's not going to be any runtime issues there.
Do you mind sharing that API? I think that might be something really useful for tuning interaction models for everyone, really.
Yeah, it's actually really awesome. It's called Data Muse.
Data Muse.
Yeah, I'll type it in here. Probably datamuse.com or something.
Okay. Let me drop a link.
Yeah, they have a ton of really cool features that let you basically find similar sounding words, find synonyms, find like words where the first letter is A and are synonyms to this word. So it's really got a lot of cool features there. Definitely recommend checking it out. I only found out about it a couple months ago.
That's a pretty extensive list of validations you do on the data, and I really like that you've automated so much of that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Content creation and pipelines and all that always takes more work than you think it will. But if you don't have anything automated, it's a huge pain to update the skill. So right now it's pretty easy when I get new content to validate it and then deploy it into the skill.
Yeah, that's and it really helps you to actually not spend as much time in the long run, right? Like even though it might be some more effort up front, since it feeds into your ISP model, your preferred business model, it's really more frugal in the long run.
Yeah. Also, I love coding, so I'd rather spend my time doing that than validating things by hand.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. um, Akka asked, do you have a web version of Puzzle of the Day?
No, I don't. Right now, it's built kind of for voice. That's an interesting idea that I could kind of experiment with in the future. But when I built it, it was kind of from the ground up build for voice, and there's a lot of kind of decisions I made there, especially with Escape the Room as well, that simplified enough where it makes sense for voice, but not for necessarily a web app. So one of those things is it's supposed to be kind of like a crossword puzzle. Like the clues are like what you would get in a crossword puzzle, but I eliminated most of the crossing mechanics because that's too much to get in your head. But some of that might make more sense on a web game. I do a lot of kind of try to be smart things on which letters to reveal. So I might change this, but right now when you reveal letters, it's just in order on the regular puzzle. But on the power puzzle, it's random. But when I do it randomly, I still try to make it not too hard. So if it's a really long word, I'll only reveal the first and last letter first, not one in the middle, because that can be too much to get your head around. But if it's like a 5-letter word, I'll do a random letter. So there's a lot of like different mechanics in there to make it work well for voice specifically. It can be moved to a web app in the future, but I'm really focusing on this use case where you don't have a screen necessarily, or you're far away from a screen.
Yeah, I can imagine this being really good, like commuting kind of skill as well, right? Where you're in your car, you have no screen. If you do, you shouldn't look at it.
Yeah.
Because it's really not necessary, right? It's nice to have the animations. It's nice to have the visual reminder. You can answer quicker if you see the clue, but it's really not vital. And I like that voice first design here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I've definitely built everything so that you don't need the screen.
So we have a question from Gold Zulu. What SVG animation tool would you recommend? So what do you use for making these animations?
I just do them by hand with CSS. So I got the SVGs created, which I bought the SVGs for this one, and then I just find that parts I want to animate and animate them with CSS, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, so if anyone has any more questions, we have about 10 minutes left, so ask your questions now for Gall. Akka asks, how is the average time of players calculated, and are there any issues with it? I've done the app a few times, and the average time seems unrealistically long. So I guess the average time of the daily puzzle?
Yeah, so I guess we can ask Akka, are you playing on a voice device or a screen device?
Oh, do you cater towards the specific device types?
Yeah, so here, I wanted to show some more data that I have.
Oh, awesome,
Let me
yeah.
share my screen.
Whoops, wrong one. There you go.
Can you see this?
Yeah, this is a cool dashboard. Did you build this?
Yeah, so I built this. This is just based off some of my SQL data. So as you can see in this chart, sometimes server goes down, so it might actually have to be restarted right now. It just will take a lot of time to load the first time. I think after an hour, it shuts itself off. But I can get back to that in a second. Probably will take a minute or two. I can show the website, which I don't think I've shown. This is another feature. The leaderboards are also online here. And so you can see the top players for the last 7 days, the last month, all time, just people who have linked. And soon I'll be emailing like a link to your own user. And you'll be able, in your email, and you'll be able to see like what puzzles you've done and all your scores and stuff like that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So okay. What do you see as your like key metrics on the dashboard that you created? And I'm assuming this is using your dashbot data. Maybe are you using any developer portal data as well?
This is hooked up solely to my database, and it's going to go through the Skype, but it's kind of being weird right now.
Yeah, you're it's like it's dropping maybe a little bit of bandwidth.
I can
have internet calls here.
I have the Twitch stream on and the Skype thing and everything, so it could just be blowing up right now because of that. Here we go. So as you can see, ignore this one here, but computer is kind of going slow. But the average time for Alexa devices are about 12 minutes. But for things with it's way less than that. It's about 5 minutes. So if you have a screen device, you can actually go way faster. And people with audio only have to listen to a little bit more of the text to finish. So that's an interesting insight. The times should be pretty accurate in terms of the average time. So it can be that some people are just bad and not as good as you, I guess.
Akka, you're just really good. Heard it from the creator here.
Yeah, I can answer that question, Akka. What % of users use a screen? A lot of people don't feel like answering that, but right now for me, it's about 76%. So most people have audio only. Sorry, that's most people using audio.
Oh, I see.
Audio, yeah.
I was going to say, if you're seeing 70% of users, I would think they're going out of their way to just to play your skill on a screen.
Yeah.
Just because they could go faster, right? Like, I mean, I know I will.
Yep. Other things, I store a rating. I think maybe people saw that in the menu, but every day people can rate the puzzle, so I can see what they said. And so 5 is supposed to be the best, and 1 is too easy, and 10 is too hard. So it's trending towards too hard, but still way more people think it's just right. So that's kind of the area that I'm tending to try to stay in, is about this area.
Yeah, that seems good to me. Like to trend more towards the too hard, because you will lose some customers, I'm sure. But if it's too easy, people don't have as much incentive, especially if they're not competing against other people.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen some people play when it's too easy, and it can just be not that fun if you kind of just blaze through it in a couple minutes. So I want it to be difficult enough. And I realize that this type of game won't cater to every single user at the same time. But like you said, like trending a little hard, but still trying to stay in that sweet spot is kind of where I'm aiming at.
Yeah, that seems awesome. We've got an interesting question here from Urban Blaster. Do you have enough games and stuff to focus on now, or are you always thinking of new ideas to add to your arsenal of games?
I always have new ideas, but
do you spend much time prototyping before like committing, building, and launching a game?
At this time, I'm not gonna focus on anything new. I think I have a lot of games that I'm building right now that I want to improve and make better, especially this one. So I'm trying to really focus on the quality. There are things, but what I've realized is to make something that's going to be pretty successful, you have to really put a lot of time into it. And so I've been spending a lot of time, building the website and the email features and all sorts of retention features. And I think the time is better spent improving the things I have right now than building new ones. But I do always have new ideas and am tempted to build them.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this is a really cool set of features. Like, I'm personally curious how you prioritize which of the parts of this game to work on, right? Like, in a day, do you set out with a goal of, I want to, fix this with the website, or I want to add this feature to the skill, or this new validation?
Yeah, I kind of have a list of all the things that I want to work on, and especially for this skill, it's pretty much endless. I want to add better like dynamic help. There's some of that there. I want to, really build out a better social media sharing experience. I have like a Twitter bot that I'm working on that will post some sorts of stats on a daily basis. Things like that to keep people engaged. There's more on the visual side I'd like to do. And then I said I wasn't focusing that much on new user retention, but then I want to also focus like how can I get more people who try the skill to stay? Are there ways to tweak it? One of the big, not issues, but one of the big areas in this skill is that because I'm offering one puzzle a day, it's either going to be too hard for a lot of people or too easy for a lot of people. And while I can try to get to a specific area, like there's no way right now with the model I have to let you pick a difficulty. And like I said, I chose that model because I wanted to kind of create a scarcity and let people play one puzzle that they're competing with everyone else on. And it kind of highlights that puzzle. Like that's what's important for the day. Whereas you're not just picking out of a collection in a book or something. But there's the issue with that is obviously that people aren't always getting to struggle at the perfect difficulty rate. And if I can find a solution to that while keeping all the other aspects I want to keep, I'm going to explore that.
Right, like you want to keep it fair for people. It sounds like you want to keep everyone together and not expose too many puzzles. So if you were to like have different leaderboards for easy, medium, hard, that might fragment the experience that you're looking for. Yeah. That definitely sounds like a challenge. But hey, you're collecting the right data. Like I love that you're collecting the rating from people directly on how they think the puzzles are. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. It's crazy how much I've been able to build more on top of this skill. And something that seems so simple from the outset. It's just a couple puzzles. It's like could be 5 or 6 interactions, but there's so much that goes into like teaching people. There's like the tutorial, the interactions, the retention, and there's like a lot of work that goes into all those steps to actually put it all together. Where it can seem from afar that it's not doing much, but it's probably my most complicated skill, a lot more than escape the room even.
Okay, so we're pretty much at time here. Urban Blaster brings up a point where a lot of his skills are prototype-ish, and he's batten down the hatches and do improvements. As closing remarks, do you have any advice to give to skill developers, either to see their projects through, or what they should be focusing on with retention, ISP, anything? What's the biggest advice you can give to other skill developers?
Yeah, so I guess to new skill developers trying to build a new skill, I'd say really think about the use case. I guess we didn't talk too much about use cases, but voices gaming is so different than other platforms because the use cases are so different. It's really great for things like driving, laundry, just waking up in the morning, a little bit of spare time before bed, and then like also family time. Those are all areas that like other games don't really work as well for. And so try to find a use case for your skill. Like, where does that make sense? Escape the room is a great like family bonding type. This is a great like morning skill or driving skill or whenever you have a short period of time. So if you're building something, like think of the use case and then think of why it's better on voice potentially than other platforms where an experience like this could exist. And then you have kind of, I guess, there's two main areas I see, like the games that are one big experience and the games that are retaining experiences. And for the retaining daily experiences, really focus on existing user retention, getting people to keep coming back. And for the other ones, like, I guess reviews, like enjoyment, like make sure the experience is as engaging and as rewarding as possible. And I think those are the main things to focus on, I guess. But just all the little things add up, I think is the main takeaway. I've been adding all sorts of little features that might not do much on the surface, but when you add them all up, they might all increase things by 5 to 10%, which in the end can make a skill way better.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on, talking to our community, sharing your experiences. I had a blast with this. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
It was great to be here. Yeah, thanks for the invite. I'm happy to share all my experiences. And if anyone has any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or in the Alexa Slack room or wherever.
So check out his Twitter at @gshenar. I got that right?
Yep.
Sweet. Thanks all again, and we'll talk to you later.
Great.
Bye.
Bye, guys.